Hi, I'm Andrew Holtz, and today we're talking with Professor Hank Greely from the Stanford University Law School. He's the Dean F. and Kate Edelman-Johnson Professor of Law there. But we're not talking specifically just about the law, we're talking about medicine. As I said, you are a professor of law, yet you're looking a lot at the consequences of medical research. Why is that?
Because it's so interesting, because it's so important, I think, beyond just medicine. So for the last 20 years, I've worked on ethical, legal, and social issues in biosciences, genetics, neuroscience, stem cell research. We're doing lots and lots of research and learning amazing things driven by a medical compulsion, the desire to relieve human suffering. And yet as we learn about some of the areas of the body, that our knowledge has consequences for the rest of society outside medicine. As we learn more about how human brains work for medical purposes, we also learn more about how human brains create human behaviors and how they might explain the behaviors, how we might be able to affect behaviors, and that's going to have huge consequences for all of our society.
What are some of the tools and the specific areas of medical research that are hot now that are bringing up some particular key issues involving neuroscience and the brain and law and ethics?
Well, I think the device that has really revolutionized this field more than anything else is the MRI machine, the magnetic resonance imaging machine, which allows us to get great images of soft tissue inside the body.
What are some of the main areas where you see cutting-edge research leading to probably some real important social and legal issues we're going to have to grapple with?
Yeah, I think there are at least 6 different categories of issues where neuroscience is likely to really have a substantial effect on our society and on our law. One is in making predictions about people, their future health and their future behaviors. A second is basically reading minds, being able to tell whether people are truly in pain, whether they're telling the truth or not, whether they feel bias or not. A third is issues of responsibility. Should we really hold somebody responsible for criminal behavior? Should we hold them responsible for making a contract? Should we decide whether he was competent to make a will? That we may be able to learn more about through neuroscience. There's a really fascinating issue involving consciousness and people in persistent vegetative states, people who've had serious brain damage. They seem to be unconscious, they're not responding to anything. There's some fascinating new research that shows some of those people may actually be conscious. Fifth, there are questions of treatment, not medical treatment. Medical treatment is certainly what's driving this research, but we might decide to treat people for behaviors we don't like. Criminal behaviors, deviant sexual behaviors, sexual predator behaviors, addictions, in some places political beliefs. A variety of different behaviors we might learn how to influence or treat through neuroscience. And finally, issues of enhancement, of using neuroscience to make healthy brains better than normal.
Again, you're an academic professor. Are these ivory tower kinds of things you can discuss at length, or are they hitting the courts in real life now?
Yes, they're both. I mean, there are ivory tower issues, and some of them I think will not be practical issues for 5, 10, 20 years, and may never be. Some of them are practical issues yesterday.
Give me examples of where some of this technology is actually hitting courts now.
So for example, the use of fMRI for lie detection is already creeping into society. There are 2 companies, one called CFOS, one with the wonderful name of No-Lie MRI, that are selling lie detection services based on fMRI. I don't think we're ready for it yet. I don't think the evidence supports it. There is some evidence in support of it. But what's really interesting is these reports are already reaching the edge of the courtroom. People are trying to introduce them into evidence in court. There was very recently the first hearing that kept, in a case in Brooklyn, that kept such a lie detection report out. There's another one coming up very soon in Tennessee. I think more will follow. We don't have the luxury of time to study this for another 5 or 10 years before making our first decision. The decisions in some of these areas, like lie detection, need to be made today.
Mm-hmm. So these are questions involving ethical and legal questions that human society has wrestled with for millennia, and putting it in a new context with new questions because of this technology that's just emerging.
Yeah, I mean, we've always been mind readers. We've always tried to understand what other people are thinking. I'm trying to read your mind right now and see if you like how my answer is going, or you think I should change it, whether you're understanding me, whether you look confused. We read minds all the time, but we know we're not great at it, or poker wouldn't exist. Dating would look different. Life would be different if we were better at reading minds. Well, this technology gives us some possibilities to see what's going on inside people's heads and use that to make inferences about what they're thinking, feeling, believing, how they're going to act, and that is potentially revolutionary.
All right, Stanford University Law School Professor Hank Greely, thanks very much for talking to me about how medical research can have very broad implications.
Oh, well, thanks, Andrew. It's always a pleasure.
Okay. I'm Andrew Holtz, MDITV.com.